Hello dear learners, and this time I welcome you to module 15, whose title is Report and Proposal Writing. Okay, and just as we do at the beginning of each module, a brief recap of the last module. Remember what was the last module? Module 14, Features of Technical Communication in Writing. Exactly. Okay, so the different forms of technical communication, technical written communication, and the different features of those technical communication, and we learnt about how to improve our competency in written technical communication, right? Okay, so here we go with the objectives of module 15. You know that module 15, it's in two parts. One is report, the other is proposal. Yeah. So the first objective of module 15 is to know what a report is. Okay. The second, to learn various kinds of reports. Third, to learn to write reports, and very persuasive and effective and impressive reports. Fourth, to know and understand what a proposal is and how important a proposal is in a business environment. And finally, to develop the skill to write various kinds of proposals. Finally, we'll just have a short go at trying to acquaint you with some of the editing skills that would be required in arriving at the final draft of a proposal or a report. Report writing. Okay. What does come to your mind? I am sure that this is a word you are not coming across or encountering for the first time. This is a word you have come across a number of times. Do you remember where you come across it? Yes, in the syllabus in English, and more importantly in the question papers. Okay, even in graduation, what kind of a report you are asked to write as part of your question? Basically it's it's a writing exercise, okay, which asks you to write a report on celebration of any important event in your school or college, say Independence Day, okay, or something like that. Okay, and that is how all of us actually who take this path through school and college, that is how almost all of us, we actually get initiated to writing of reports. But there is more to it than only writing a report for an Independence Day celebration, for a freshman, for a freshers a social evening, for some important events, maybe some World Environment Day or something like that. There is quite more to it. Okay, now just imagine that you are a bureaucrat, okay, and your commissioner, okay, your district commissioner, the district collector, okay, has directed you to visit an affected area in the district. It may be a flood affected area, or say any market or locality which has been ravaged by a devastating fire. Okay, so an affected area, he or she has asked you to visit and submit a readable report. Okay, so that is very important. Am I right? Some of you are going to be absorbed in the bureaucracy, I'm sure. Okay, so that's an important area, and that's an important skill that you need to cultivate. What about your private sector? Suppose you are a subordinate in an organization and you have been asked by your boss to write a report on anything. I mean, like say work efficiency of the workforce, physical well-being of the employees, mental well-being of the employees, or something like that. Okay, status of the physical shape of the employees. You see, your report will be important. Why? Your report on the physical well-being of the employees may finally force the establishment, force the organization, force the company to start say yoga sessions during office hours, to dedicate one part to gym where the employees can go and spend every day half an hour to each employee. So something like that. See, okay, very important, right? And another which most of us are familiar with, newspaper reports. Newspaper reports about, as I've said, fire, flood, any event, accident. Okay, newspaper reports. So that is one standard kind of reports. Reports can be so various. Reports can be so formal. Reports can be so serious. Okay, and reports can actually lead to some kind of decision, some kind of action. So learners, take this very, very seriously. Okay. So with this, let us try and understand. All of you surely have idea and good idea, I'm sure, of what a report is. But still, let's try to clearly understand report. Okay. A report is a written document that presents facts on its chosen topic, and it does so with a particular aim in mind, with a particular target audience, right? So essentially, the objective has to be very clear. Okay, why the report and who the target? Okay, these two very important. Reports are generally an aid, in decision making. One example I have already given you. Okay, that based on your report of the physical well-being and status of employees, a firm, a company, an organization may decide on opening a full-time gym, starting yoga classes, or something like that, right? So they are generally an aid to decision making. Even take the instance of I talked about reporting about a flood affected area or a market or a locality ravaged by fire, and on your report will depend to a large extent the response of the authority, the response of the government. Okay, reports generally are formal. However, in some very particular cases, okay, they may be less formal, but reports are hardly informal. Okay, there is an established, not customized, I would say established format which most of the reports they follow, and that is what today our aim will be to pick up, to learn, okay, and to develop that skill. And what about the size? Okay, the size of a report can really vary. Okay, when it is a part of the question paper in examination, generally the word limit which will determine the size of the report, the word limit is generally given. Okay, now it can range anything from 1 page to, I don't know, I mean it may run into, there are reports of commissions set up by government, judicial commissions, inquiry commissions, etc. They runs into hundreds and hundreds of pages, and they are divided into chapters. There is a table of contents and so many things. Okay, there are, but ours is not really targeted. Ours will be slightly more specific, will be more like official and business reports, which will immediately help a short kind of precise, which will help in decision making. Okay, so this report again is a written document that basically presents facts on a particular topic, and it does with a very particular aim in mind. So the objective and the target audience must be pretty clear. Okay, why reports? Okay, part of it we have already answered, but still let's try and understand more about why reports. Reports, or what reports will lead to? Inform, of course. Reports help us with a lot of information. Okay, they help in recommendation. They do, of course, right? They also help in persuasion, in arriving at a decision. We have already said. Okay, very importantly, reports are written records. They are documents. Okay, and they will be preserved for ages. So again, extra care about how do you mention facts, right? They can also be used to kind of persuade or motivate. Okay, if you want that authority should take a particular authority, in the sense not exactly government authority, it may be authority of any company, organization. You want that the authority should take a particular arrive at a particular decision, so your report can be used from that point of view also, right? So these are about reports. Why, what exactly is a report, what are the different kinds of reports, right? And now let us come to our main focus area, our main thrust area, one that will actually improve your skill. Okay? What is that? How to go about writing reports. and not simply writing reports, how to go about writing reports that are what? Informative, persuasive, right, and that help to come at a decision. So while writing reports, I have already said it, that one thing is very important. What? Clarity. Clarity. What is the report about? Okay, the subject, the main topic, the main focus. That's absolutely clear. The second very, very important thing about report writing is, what is the target audience? Who is the target audience? Okay, these two things. Okay, clarity of what the report is about, then the target intended audience or the target audience. Okay, these two. And another thing that you should keep in mind, in writing reports, is the perspective of the reader. That is very important. That's actually important in any form of communication. Okay, the sender, the receiver. Okay, the receiver is very, very important. These are the things that you should broadly have in mind. Then you must gather facts very meticulously, because there can hardly be a report without a fact. So if it is about the celebration of any event in your locality or college, okay, so what was the date, the time, who was the guest, okay, around how many people attended. If it is about a flood affected area, so which part of the locality, how the flood was caused, how many people had been displaced, okay, any deaths, what is the condition. So factual collection, that's very, very important. Okay, data or fact, whatever you say it, that is a very, very important part of your report writing. So while talking about, we'll more concentrate on the language aspect of reports. Okay, so what I will say, the grammarian's angle, okay, or the linguist angle. Okay, how to write a good report. Okay, one, and that is very, very important. Reports generally tend to be written in the passive voice. Many of you might be from science backgrounds, and you have written a report of the tests conducted in your laboratories, physics, chemistry. Okay, so what we say the beaker was put on the stand, or okay, the flame was lighted. Okay, the two liquids were mixed. Okay, most of the time. Okay, right. Even in case of newspaper reports, if you see, when newspaper reports talk about, say, accident or death, so say 2 people were killed, okay, 2 people died, okay, 3 people were injured, right? So the passive voice, it's so important. Okay, and therefore you should know the proper use of the passive voice. That is one very, very important area. Okay, when you write reports, okay, one generally tends to adopt a passive voice. But again, it's not to say that all kinds of reports necessarily need to be written in the passive voice. Then the reports generally are not personal. Okay, even if the deputy commissioner has directed you to write, even if the boss of your office has directed to draft a report, prepare a report, generally the first person, that is I, tends to be omitted. Okay, I tends to be omitted. So I put the beaker on the flame, I went to the flood affected area, okay, I did this. I is generally omitted. But however, towards the end of the report, if recommendations form a part of your report, you may use. But again, okay, even in case of recommendations, okay, generally the following may be recommended. This is the language that generally is adopted. So again, the use of the passive voice. But you see, so try and keep the I as much as possible away from those report writing. Okay. Another thing, the importance of date, place, time, okay, especially in the writing of newspaper reports. Yeah, you guessed it right. In the writing of newspaper reports, you see, when the news was drafted, okay, time, or maybe it's a date, okay, date and time, that's when the newspaper report drafted, the place from which the newspaper report was drafted. So those two are very, very important from apart from that, if you have noticed, most newspaper reports they carry something like by a staff reporter, from a correspondent or something like that, but that is again very, very specific to newspaper report writing. So this is about reports, and now we will go to the second part of our, that is proposal. So learners and dear friends, now the second part, proposal. Okay, again proposal may be compared to report. Proposal, the word maybe is somewhat unfamiliar to you. Okay, but if you have been a part of student union bodies or representatives of students, and you have some idea in mind to hold an event or something like that, and you approach the head of the institution or the principal, what is the first thing that the principal would tell you? Submit a proposal. Okay. And you are at a loss, what is a proposal? Okay, so a proposal is, you see, basically it's a written statement of what a person wants to do, and it must also include other details like how the person would like that idea of his or hers to be carried out. So a proposal is it's quite detailed. Okay? And there are varieties of proposal apart from the one that I have just talked about. That's not very formal, that's not very official, and that's at the level of college and university students, right? But proposal is very important in your in the government sector, in bureaucracy, more so important if you are in company, in organization, in business, and also proposal is important in academia. Okay? So let me first just give you some hints about how to go about writing an academic proposal, because in the latter part of our module we have some modules dedicated to academic, though this is a very, very focused and specific area. But research proposal, it's mainly called a kind of research proposal, which will have nearly say 200 to 250 word abstract of what exactly is your main argument, what you want to say, what you want to do, what you want to establish. Okay, and then the proposal may be in slight details, which will have the methodology that the research scholar is going to use. The research scholar can talk about the methodology to be used, okay, in or during research, and it may also contain a list of books, a sort of a short bibliography of the books to be either used, cited, or consulted during this. So this is academic proposal. Basically it's called a research proposal. That is what I would now actually like to draw your attention to writing a proposal for maybe a business house, or even writing or drafting a proposal for your the authority or the government. Okay, right. So before you have a written proposal, what is the first thing that you need to have? You need to have the idea, that what new idea that I am going to share, right? You need to have the idea, and it's not enough to just have an idea. You need to have some kind of a roadmap. Okay, so that roadmap in written form becomes a proposal. I hope you understand. Okay, so it is the idea. One part of the proposal would be the idea. Okay, and the roadmap, how to go about implementing that idea in some details. Okay, that becomes the proposal. So suppose you have an idea of some kind of a community service. So you write a proposal, okay, a proposal in detail, and you submit it to your immediate superior, maybe the district magistrate, the deputy commissioner, and the deputy commissioner finds that very lucid, very persuasive, okay, so well written, and maybe it will for, and that may finally be adopted. So of course you will feel enormously happy. But that to reach that stage, what you basically require is that you need to develop that skill, okay, to draft, to be able to draft such kind of a persuasive, a comprehensive proposal. Okay, it's so in business, it is so in your in official. So therefore, what you require first and foremost, the statement of the idea. Okay, the idea has to be very clear and focused, and in very unambiguous terms, the idea has to be stated right at the beginning of the proposal. Then, how do you go about implementing the idea? Okay, the implementation part is very, very important. Okay, and in the implementation part, you see, there can be lot of things. Okay, though this is a course on functional English, but I may suggest that you may use various kinds of diagrams, tables, pie charts, Venn diagrams, etc. You may use that, and I would rather suggest and advise that you use, because it enhances the visual presence, the entire thing more reader friendly. So use those. Okay, you can use charts, you can use tables. There might be statistics that entirely you present. And in the third part, okay, you talk about how, if your idea implemented in this way will lead to, okay, how it will be if it is business, let us say, how it will be cost effective, or how it will be profitable in the long term, okay, and how it will be socially relevant, okay, how it can be justified. If suppose there is a question that there is a lot of investment, so your concluding remarks, okay, that should be able to justify the investment that you have already talked about in the main body, in the main part. Okay, so for this you would really require good and sound art of writing paragraphs. Your whole proposal should be comprehensive because it should be in detail. There should be enough facts and figures, possibly tables and diagrams, and all those you include. Then language wise, it should be the paragraphs, and everything should be quite cohesive, one argument leading on to the another one. And finally you sort of justify. Okay, you sort of justify how by the output, the intended output. Let us look at some suggestions from my side, some advice, or rather shall we call it some do's of drafting a good persuasive proposal. Okay, one is, as I've said, first the idea. Second, you concentrate on your facts. Okay, the case you put, it must be very credible and very factual. The next one is the roadmap, how to approach, okay, how to go about it. That is also very, very important. While you present, okay, while you write, you may use captions, and as I've already said, using diagrams, pictures, illustrations, etc., charts, etc. They not only enhance the visual presence, but they will make it look more comprehensive. It will be reader friendly, and there is a more chance, okay, that your proposal will get through. But see to it that there is not an overdose, right? Because ultimately you have to establish your point through your language and through your argument, which have to be carried on through your different paragraphs. Okay, so that and your language should be somewhat dynamic. But yes, you can chance on some key terms. You can chance on some key terminology, which you can keep kind of repeating and repeating. Okay? So that you keep more or less the area of focus. You more or less you keep it concentrated in the mind of whoever it is to whom you are submitting the proposal, right? So then paragraphs I have already talked about. Okay, you have to be descriptive. Okay, you have to explain, you have to make the linkages, and finally you conclude. You should be very persuasively, you should be able to establish your point. Okay, so I hope this inputs will do. Please refer to the teaching learning material. We have shared with you some samples, and with that I'm sure you will find that you are empowered. Okay, after this module you are in a better position to write proposals. Okay, don't start writing very detailed and long drawn out proposals. Write with short 2-3 page proposals. Okay, and then finally, as I said, the last objective is editing. Right now, editing involves a lot of things, but we'll basically keep it pretty short. So whether it is report, whether it is your proposal, you make first a rough draft, okay, and then from the rough draft you come to the first draft, and then you make the final draft. Okay, so just take caution, take extra caution before you make the final draft, because that more or less would be the one that you will be handing over to the intended authority. It might be the government official, it might be your boss in office, okay, whatever, or in case of academics, you might be handing it over to the head of the department or head of the institution, okay. And as part of editing, of course, some of the other things like grammar, spelling, etc., without saying, they are always part of that, right? So dear learners, we come to this module, and as we conclude this module today, what we have learned? We have learned about two very, very important things. One is report, what a report is, what constitutes a report, what are the various kinds of reports, and how to go about writing a really impressive, and factually correct report. And second, which I think is slightly more important because it is a somewhat unfamiliar area, that is proposal, okay. So proposal, which is very important in our especially in our professional and business life. So how to go about writing, drafting a very persuasive proposal. Today we have learned. We have also acquainted a bit with some editing skills. In the next modules, learners, we shall come up with some other aspects, other functional aspects of the English language, so as to make your communication more effective. Thank you for giving me a patient listening. See you again. Till then, goodbye.